let's talk about gravity. Okay, so I don't want to talk about the chair because when we start talking about chairs, we start sort of creating all sorts of funny perceptions. Everybody has to deal with gravity. For most people, their dealing with gravity is changed by their ability to walk around, stand up, lay down, and do all sorts of different things. Leanne is exposed to gravity predominantly in the chair, so you've got to think that the pressure on Leanne's body is coming down through her neck to a lumbar spine to her hips, and then it sort of stops there, and then it starts again and goes down to her legs. So one of the main things we want to think about in terms of how we plan a treatment for Leanne is how do we make sure that we're constantly returning fluids and movement back towards the heart. So you might have had a relaxing massage somewhere and they sort of worked down through your body, and then they did these nice sort of flicky things at the end of your hands and feet, and you thought that was lovely and relaxing, right? Which is great for a relaxation massage, not specifically helpful for Leanne. So because all that fluid in her body is sort of moving away from her heart, and then she doesn't have the muscle contractions at the end of her body to push that fluid back, that fluid gets to the end and sits there a little bit. So what we want to do is keep trying to direct fluid back towards Leanne's thoracic to her heart, her upper body. We don't want to sort of be pushing things down to her feet. So if you've ever watched me do a massage for Leanne, you'll notice that it kind of looks like I might be going that way, but what I'm actually doing is clearing a part of the lymphatic system first and sending that back to the heart, and then coming down to the next part of her body and working and pushing that fluid back. So the idea in lymphatics is that you can't really just start at the feet and push all that fluid up, because the vessels aren't cleared to accept that fluid. So if you think, I jump in the bath and I've got the water going down the drain, if I push all the water, it's going to go all the way to the end, there'll be a big splash, and then all the water's going to come straight back again. So what we want to do is keep pushing that fluid towards the heart as we're moving away, but we're not starting at that end and moving that way. We're trying to constantly get it back towards the heart. Sorry if I just pointed in the wrong direction. I'm looking at a screen. So the movement of fluids is one aspect of gravity. The other is the joint capsules. So if you can imagine in a standing position, your socket's there and your femur's there, right? So this is your hip. And as you move around, your hip does all sorts of different things throughout the day. For Leanne, because it's really in that seated position a lot of time, the effect of gravity will sort of has the potential to drive the femur in one direction. And so generally when we think about seated postures for anybody, the general concept is that the front of the joint and the top of the joints are the bit that get tight and short. So if you think about your shoulder, your shoulder sort of drives up this way. It doesn't drive down that way. So that's where you go to your PT, and your PT is always telling you to get your shoulders down and back, because your tendency is for them to come up and forward. And it's the same with Leanne's hips. So we want to be able to think, if we're going to go and do some fascial work somewhere, then lengthening that connective tissue at the front top of a joint capsule is probably going to be more beneficial for Leanne than working at the back lower part of a joint capsule. And then we can think about gravity's effect on Leanne's thoracic and upper body. So when she's sitting in the chair, her body's able to brace up, but then as gravity kicks in, like all of us, we start to drop down, and then Leanne's got the neck brace to hold her neck up. So what you'll see on the back of Leanne's body is her back comes around, or I'll do it in the position she'll be on the table. So her back comes up and over, and then down into her neck, and then back up into her head. So there's parts of Leanne's body that are going to be exposed to gravity more like her neck. So if you're working on Leanne's back and you can see her back come up, that's fine. We want to move and mobilise that. But as it comes down into her neck, we're coming down into a pinch point where gravity's having a more acute effect on Leanne's body. So can I push on her thoracic? Sure, no dramas. Can I push on her cervical, on her neck? I really wouldn't be doing that. Leanne will probably let you know because it'll be acutely painful. So it'll compress the nerves and it'll push the joint surfaces together, and it's not super nice for us. So that's another reason why you'll see not only is my treatment slow for the connective tissue, but my treatments are slow because I'm trying not to have a lot of force go into those areas like Leanne's neck where it can have a very detrimental effect for her, but rather to keep it slow and work on things like that thoracic where the movement is confined to that space. Whereas if I do a big abrupt movement, that movement's going to travel straight up her spine to the weakest point, which is going to be her neck, and then all of a sudden she'll have a neck problem. Same for Leanne's lower back. So a lot of people, when they talk about massage, they'll be like, oh, I get an elbow in the back and it's great. For Leanne, we definitely don't want to be doing that. If we're going to be working on Leanne's back, so let's say here's Leanne's thoracic and it's coming down into her lower back and then up into her sacrum and glutes. So if we're looking on Leanne's lower back, what I don't want to be doing is pushing down there because the curvature of her spine is already that way, right? So if I'm going to work on Leanne's back, what I want to do is change my angle and come in from the sides, and that way I'll get those lumbar muscles in a way that's not going to make it more difficult. And I've just got to be careful that there are nerve roots coming out of there. So, and there's the edges of Leanne's bones, which is also exposed. So if I'm going in, I just need to be careful that, I'm conservative more than anything else. There's always another day for another massage. What you need to keep in mind is that if you go too aggressive or too hard or too fast for Leanne, the recovery time for her is way more than it might be for other people, and so the detrimental effects for Leanne are greater. So we just need to be more careful when we're doing stuff in terms of massage work.